Jurors are hearing closing arguments in the Palisades Fire arson trial. Prosecutors say Jonathan Rinderknecht should be found guilty based on evidence presented during the last 2 weeks. Our investigative reporter Leonard has been in federal court following this trial. He joins us live now from downtown LA with an update. Eric.
Hi, Jonathan. Well, federal prosecutors have spent about 2 hours recapping the testimony and the witnesses and the evidence that they say not only puts Jonathan Rinderknecht in the Pacific Palisades right when the first of those 2 wildfires started, but also may provide a possible motive. What the feds say was stewing resentment towards the rich and powerful, and whose homes, by the way, the rich and powerful, Rinderknecht was looking at when he found himself on top of a hill in the Palisades right around midnight on January 1st, 2025. Assistant U.S. Attorney Dan B. Kim was telling jurors the evidence has answered one of the most perplexing questions of this case. Why would Jonathan Rinderknecht have deliberately started a fire? She says those answers can be found in his behavior, text messages, and online chats. When she says in the days before the January 1st fire, the Lackman fire, his anger and frustration at the rich and powerful festered. She told jurors Rinderknecht was turned down for New Year's plans and says while everyone else was out celebrating, he lit this fire. Later, she summarized the testimony of ATF experts who explained how the fire from January 1st that looked like it was out could have smoldered underground, then reignited into the catastrophic Palisades fire. The defense began its closing by telling the jurors, you, jurors, are the gatekeepers of common sense, and to apply that to the facts of the case. Defense attorney Steve Haney says it's most likely fireworks set off around midnight on New Year's, January 1st, 2025, caused the fire, not his client. He repeatedly pointed out that cameras that captured the first minutes of that fire recorded in intervals, not video. So he said there's missing chunks of time, and told jurors that means fireworks could have been missed, and the exact time the fire started, still a mystery. Haney said the area burned in the first fire had no real connection to the federal government. He questioned whether this was even a federal crime, and that the scene of that first fire was not preserved for an investigation until after the Palisades fire burned through the same area again, January 7th, probably destroying key evidence. Haney said the government began this case with a conclusion that the Palisades and the Lackman fire had been deliberately set, and then he says they pieced together fragments of evidence that connected with his client. Jurors are expected to hear the last bits of the closing in this hour, also get additional instructions from the judge. It's possible deliberations could begin late today, more likely tomorrow. And if he's convicted, Rinderknecht could face more than a decade in federal prison. Live outside federal court in downtown LA, I'm investigative reporter Leonard, NBC4 News. Back to you.